We've got Eyes on Surprise, and on today's show, Grant Schiller joins us to talk about some prospects that he saw in person, who looked good, who looked great, who looked not as great in Arizona this spring. All that and more on this episode on Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the World Series champion Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan covering this team for 10 seasons, including all 5 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. You can follow my guest at OG Show. And the best way you can help grow the show is to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and to comment nearly any single thing below on YouTube. Now, we are joined today by the prospect prognosticator, the king of all things Rangers prospect knowing, Grant Schiller of Baseball Perspectives. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Oh, I am great. I am so happy that there is, notable buzz, things happening, content to make, and I am not just pulling thoughts and feelings and nonsensical ramblings out of my behind. I mean, there will still be some of that because it is my podcast and that's kind of a staple, but there's less of it because there's stuff about Dylan Cease to talk about. There are prospects to discuss. The sun is shining. It is a good day to talk ball. And there's no one I'd rather talk ball with than you, Mr. Grant Schiller, who were out there in surprise, seeing what you were seeing. What were some of your first takeaways of just being out at, I guess the second time you have been at a reigning World Series champs spring training camp?
That's right. But the first time I cared about it, it was a lot of fun. Spring training is always just the best. Spring training in October are the 2 best parts of the baseball season. You get so much access. You're so close to everything. Your day is nothing but baseball. We stay at a hotel right by the ballpark, so we wake up, we walk over, watch them practice, watch them play the game, and then go to dinner, turn in, see a movie, whatever. I mean, it's just, beautiful spot with mountains. It's great weather in March, and it's nothing but baseball. It's just wonderful. But this time, walking up and seeing the 2023 World Series champions flags, that Cal, the Cookie Lady's husband and current Rangers usher, was able to raise was very, very cool. Very, very cool.
Gosh, I cannot wait to go to the ballpark and see that flag flying, see the flags that fly forever, because they do indeed fly forever. No matter what prospects you give up, that is always the statement in trades like that when you are going all in. And there are some moves that I'm less enthusiastic about yelling flag fly forever about, but honestly, at this point, they do fly forever, and I don't care about any of them. But now that we are in a new season where it is not all-in mode from the start, I care a lot about these prospects. So let's get into some of the prospects that you saw this spring. Who are some guys that jumped out to you that you were either you hadn't gotten a look at or hadn't really gotten as much of a look as you would have liked to?
Yeah, so I'll preface this with I went very early in spring. It was March 1st through 4th, so the 4th was the first official day of minor league camp, which means that there are people who I'd like to see who I only got a day of or didn't get to see at all. And it's also very early on in spring, so some of this may not be the best look for everyone. Guys still rounding in the form. However, there's still some good things to talk about. We can start with the man of the hour, Brock Porter. He looked really, really, really good. He was way ahead of where he was a year ago, where I was legitimately worried for the safety of opposing batters during his live bullpen. This time around, he was still a little wild, though a little bit more dialed in. Fastball was still missing up and arm side often, but not quite to the same extent. But the stuff was just so good. The fastball was zippy, strong ride through the zone, really jumped on hitters. Should be able to play both up and down in the zone. The changeup maybe didn't quite have quite the same helicopter tumble that it had before, but it was still a good pitch, and he was locating it much better. And the slider was way, way, way better. I mean, it was sharp, significant and late break. Opponents weren't really getting close to it. Consistently plus to even a little bit better. And that was the pitch that was a project coming out of high school. So now you've got that fastball slider combo, which really good power pair. You combine it with the changeup that's always been really good, and he seems to be commanding better, at least in this small sample that I saw. And I mean, if he can just throw strikes, he's going to be one of the better pitching prospects in baseball by the end of this year, I feel like.
Oh, man, that is both encouraging and also a little terrifying that he is being, talked about as one of the headliners in the C Steal. So maybe White Sox scouting department, front office, don't listen to this podcast. Grant doesn't know what he's talking about. Actually, Brock Porter is bad. You should want Antoine Kelly over him. That's definitely where we're at. But I'm curious, of the guys on the hitting side, were you ever able to see Echedri Vargas?
I was able to see a little bit of him. He was one of the guys who I just saw on the last day. It wasn't a great look. It was his first day of camp. They're not necessarily doing the old school, I'm going to toss you batting practice, and so I can just stand there and look and see what your raw power is and what your swing looks like. They're doing machine BP at full speed. So on his first day, he wasn't really all there. He didn't, to be honest with you, he didn't really stand out in the way I expected him to. But I just attribute that to it being his first day. I did see him more defensively, where he has middle infield actions. The arm just barely clears the bar to stay on the left side of the dirt, but I don't know that shortstop is his best spot long term. I did like some of the stuff I saw makeup-wise. High energy guy. After his day was done, he stuck around for probably an hour and a half to watch teammates throw live bullpens just from the stands. I like some of the feedback there, and the bat. Everything I've heard on it is that it's gonna play. So I don't read too much into it not looking great on day one of minor league camp.
That's fair. That's totally fair. I mean, when you're only there for the early stages, it does take a while for guys to fully get into it. But there is another hitter that has garnered some interest from the casual Rangers fans. You might have heard of. His name was Wyatt Langford. Did you get to see that guy at all in spring training and what he was doing? Because I heard he looked pretty good.
I did. I think I saw 2 home runs from him and some more strong at bats. He's, how do I say this? Good at baseball.
Bold.
I think it's as simple as that. Oh, I have breaking news here, Bryce, on the on the podcast.
Oh, you do?
Dylan Cease has been acquired by the San Diego Padres.
Whew. Okay. I thought this might happen while we were recording. Okay, well, there goes our entire second segment of the show live on
Don't worry,
air.
I have enough prospects to cover.
Okay, good. Yeah, the Padres, of the 3 teams that I thought might be trading for him, well, okay, Padres are all in on 2024 after trading away Juan Soto. Okay, interesting. Okay, well, I guess that's not happening.
Yeah, it's a little
So
strange.
much for my hopes and dreams of content, but hey, here we are. We got a live reaction to the Dylan Cease trade, like we all expected, not going to the Texas Rangers, going to the Texas Rangers of the NL West, aka the Fighting AJ Prellers. Not surprising that he is making a big all-in deal. I'm curious what the return is going to look like. We are just seeing that now. So if you see that return come out, I'm definitely curious if it's something the Rangers could have beaten. I mean, would have beaten more than it could have beaten, because if the Rangers wanted to go do something crazy, they probably could have. But wow, San Diego Padres trading for Dylan Cease. Coming up, we're talking about some more prospects that Grant saw and a little bit about how rare it is to have 2 of the top 10 prospects in all of baseball coming off a World Series win. Right after this word for our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live game highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs as well as the Fire Stick. You can plug it into your existing TV. It provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes us at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date in the latest in the world of sports. So go check out these Fire TV channels on all Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked them out, you've got to go check them out. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney, whether you're betting big on an upset of the one seed or no matter what it is, whether it's a one seed or a time for a big update, it's time to go dancing on America's number one sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. You can also bet on Major League Baseball. I'm curious where Dylan Cease is in the update. Will be in the updated NL Cy Young rankings. I mean, the Padres went from a left-handed version of Dylan Cease to a right-handed version of Dylan Cease, and the left-handed version just won a Cy Young last year. So maybe Dylan Cease will win the right-handed version of it this year in the National League. So go check it out. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Bet on college hoops until they cut down those nets. Now, here we are with Grant Schiller, the prospect prognosticator, seeing all the things there are to be seen out there in the spring, including one Wyatt Langford. And I'm curious because I love talking about Wyatt Langford, who is going to stay with the Rangers for hopefully until the sun sets on humanity, or at least until his playing career is done, because I am just over the moon excited about Wyatt Langford. And I'm curious if there's anything new that you saw, because I know you saw him for a little bit in Frisco when he was there for about 5 minutes. But is there anything new that you saw that you didn't know, other than like, oh, well, yeah, no, this guy can also do it against big league spring training pitching as well as minor league pitching?
Yeah, no, not really. I mean, he's the best hitting prospect in baseball. He still looked like that. He's still fast. He's still a work in progress defensively. Yeah, it was pretty much all the same.
That's fair. But the same.
And the same is very, very good.
Yeah, that's what matters. That the same is he's nope, still good, still very good, still potentially pretty darn good in the outfield. And I know both of us are pretty high on his potential to at least be a decent left fielder. But I'm curious if he is your everyday DH, or at least your most days DH. I mean, one of the things that the Ranger front office was talking about of why he wouldn't make the opening day roster is because, well, he needs some more reps in the outfield. And like, yeah, that's kind of true. But also, can you really send a guy down who's this good of a hitter when you're a team that wants to win right now and is going to be in a very difficult division chase with the Astros and the Mariners?
It would be tough. I do think that when it comes to Langford, it might be best for him to get time with very dedicated outfield work and take him to a game every day for a month. But it is tough to sacrifice a month of that bat in the middle of a contending season. I don't know that you can. I think your point is well taken. I don't know that you can. And it might be something that you just have to live with and extend the development period for him to grow the glove to where you think it can be and where you want it to be.
I'm wondering how much of that development can be done just working with the big league, coaching staff, of just like reps out there before games, even if it's not in game. Like, is there something to that? Because big league coaching staffs are usually better than minor league coaching staffs. Not to besmirch them, but like that's where the best go. And I feel like, is it just game reps that's really the thing that he needs the most?
It really is. He's only been an outfielder for 2 years still. The college season is pretty short. And you also don't want him in season to be doing too much pre-work. There is such thing as too much. This is going to be the longest season he's ever going to play. He ever will have played. It's going to be 162 games, plus hopefully a long October run again. That takes a beating on you. And if you are out there every other day running routes in left field and practicing, it's going to take more of one. So there's going to have to be a balance, and you're not going to want to push it too much. So game reps are going to be the number one thing for someone who's so new to the outfield especially.
That's fair. That's definitely fair. But one guy who is not new to his position, he has been at this position for a long, long time. And the subject of, I think, of the prospects that we've talked about, the one we talked about the most, the ups and the downs and the all arounds, I think you know where I'm going with this, is of course Jack Leiter. And I remember a text that you sent me very excitedly that Jack Leiter landed a breaking ball for a strike. So does that mean everything's fixed? Jack Leiter is going to be the prince that was promised, and who needs Dylan Cease because Jack Leiter is just going to go and do that, but with fewer walks?
Well, no. No. But he was better. He was certainly better. So that what you said is the biggest thing. He was landing the breaking balls for strikes, and that has been such a huge issue over the past 2 years. And even at the end of last year, when he succeeded in AAA, he was doing so by throwing almost entirely fastballs, which isn't going to play at the top level. So he was landing the slider and the curveball for strikes. The slider was well ahead of the curveball in terms of pitch quality. It was definitely not his Vanderbilt curveball still, but put in the strike zone, that's still an improvement. The slider was very good. He was throwing a handful of cutters in the low 90s. Those were finding the zone and really were commanded, not just controlled. Fastball was 95, 97 with some giddy up. That one was still pretty wild, but not in the same way. The last 2 years, the fastball has been missing glove side. And it's been pretty frustrating to watch. This time it was more of the kind of effectively wild kind of way where he's going to miss glove side, then he's going to miss up, then he's going to miss arm side, then he's going to miss up and arm side, then he's going to dot it up, then he's going to miss down, where he's maybe not throwing it to the intended location, but it's more likely to hit fine zone, and it's more likely to kind of in a lucky, effective way be wild. But to circle back, the biggest thing is just throwing a slider and curveball for strikes. That is such a huge step forward. It doesn't mean that there's not reliever risk. It doesn't mean that he's totally turned the corner. But it was very good to see.
Honestly, just progress on him is the biggest thing, because that's, I think, been the most frustrating thing for both of us the last couple of years. Is like, oh, he's still at the same level. Oh, he's still making the same mistakes. Oh, that one thing is not fixed, and there were other things to fix as well. But just like, all right, just to hear like, oh, he's missing arm side sometimes. He's missing up. I was like, oh, cool. Awesome. Something different, some kind of new development. Like that's a legitimately exciting thing. And so, yeah, even though he is probably your number, I don't know, 7, 8 man in the rotation, maybe he's the 9th option at this point. I don't know if you feel if he's 9th, that's not terrible. But like if he's 6, 7, or 8, that's the fact that he's, the minor league starting pitcher that's still at big league camp, at least as of this recording. That was the most surprising thing to me, that it wasn't Owen White, that it wasn't Zach Kent that were staying up with big league camp, that it was Jack Leiter. And I was like, okay, well,
yeah,
that was nice.
Yeah, and that's both a good showing on Leiter. It's also very frustrating with Wynn and White and Kent. White I didn't see. Wynn was really more of the same, which after a good winter ball season in Puerto Rico, kind of hoping to see that there had been improvement. And I should say there was some improvement, but not nearly enough to be a big league option. And Kent, unfortunately, looked really poor. The fastball that was previously 94, 95 was set 90 to 91, and it just got cranked. It's never been a pitch that is going to get by on movement like Dane Dunning at 90 to 91. he has to play it off the slider, and he has to have more juice in the tank there. So at 26 years old, hopefully it's just an early spring thing and he'll get it back through the year. But it was pretty disheartening on him.
Do you think part of it's just because he had so many injuries last year and just getting built back up to, where he was previously is going to, take some more time?
It's possible. And for the sake of fairness, I don't know what he was throwing when he came back at the end of last season. So that's possible. That's what the hope is. But we'll just have to see, and it's probably gonna take a little while for us to truly know one way or the other which way it is.
Yeah, that is not the best news that you're hoping for. But hey, some improvement with Leiter is honestly a big step. There are a lot of hopes on him, and a lot of not fun news about Rangers pitching prospects for the last my entire lifetime. So just any kind of steps in the positive development and a guy who the Rangers have a lot of hope in is a nice step. Coming up, we're going to talk about the rarity of having 2 top 10 prospects in all of baseball after winning a World Series and why that is such a good sign for the future of this team, no matter whether they got Dylan Cease or not. Right after this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with NBA, NHL, and college basketball entries today on PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. So you can go check out. They even offer injury insurance for basketball games. If your star gets injured, then those points don't count. Those picks don't count against you. If you have a player who exits the game in the first half and doesn't return in the second half, that player projection will not count against you. The rest of your entry still stays live. PrizePick offers weekly promotions that lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value. It is the best way and the only way you should be playing daily fantasy sports. So download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download that app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with PrizePicks. Now we are here with Grant Schiller talking about the glut of prospects that the Rangers have as reigning World Series champs. It is very easy to just say, all right, now the future was mortgaged for this one championship to go one and done, and to say, all right, well, all of our top prospects were up to help us win that World Series, and so the future is not that bright. But that's not the case for your fighting reigning World Series champion Texas Rangers. They have 2 guys that are consensus around almost every list that I've seen. Actually, I'm pretty sure it is every list that I've seen, that they are top 10 prospects in all of baseball, in Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford. And I was thinking to myself earlier this offseason, like, okay, how rare is it for any team that's a reigning World Series champ to have a prospect of that ilk, let alone multiple prospects that are in the top 10 in all of baseball? And I'm thankful to Baseball America for doing this research for me. They went and looked it up, how many of these reigning World Series champs had prospects in the top 10 of all of baseball since 1989. There have not been a lot. Spoiler alert. The only other team with multiple top 10 prospects in all of baseball coming off a World Series championship was the 1993 Blue Jays. This is according to Baseball America's top 100 rankings. They had Alex Gonzalez at 4, Carlos Delgado at 5, and Jose Silva at 10. And it was more common in the 90s and the early 2000s, and even a little bit in those early 2010s. But before the Rangers in 2023, the last World Series champion to have a top 10 prospect in all of baseball was the 2013 Red Sox. Can you think of who that prospect was? He's not with the Red Sox anymore. Nope. Xander Bogaerts, number 2 overall prospect in baseball. Okay. So from 2014 to 2022, nobody. Before that was the 2011 Cardinals had one, Shelby Miller. Before 2010, before the Rangers got to their first World Series, it was 2009, the Yankees had Jesus Montero. But other than that, there's just not a lot of these guys that are, top prospects in baseball that aren't up helping win a World Series. I mean, Evan Carter was and maintained his rookie eligibility, which is another very, very rare thing of a guy turns 21, then 2 weeks later he's in the majors in a pennant chase and hits third in the World Series. And they might have another early 20s rookie outfielder hitting third in the World Series if they make it back there this year. But I'm curious, is this something that you thought that was as rare as this? And like, what do you even make of it as a Rangers fan? Do you just kind of like just stunt on everybody for the rest of time of like, yep, nope, it's just going to get worse for y'all for the next decade?
Yeah, I don't know how correlated it is with future success. Obviously, you'd rather have top 10 prospects than not, but you can look at so many other things. Like you put Carter and Langford in the outfield, but if all the pitchers leave over the next 2 years and they don't replace them, they're not going to keep winning anyways, right? But I think the coolest part of that is the defending champs part. And also the having Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford part is pretty nice on top of it. So even if Carter and Langford were gone and mortgaged for it, I'd be happy to, before 2023, sell my soul to be the 2019 Nationals. But it's nice to not even have to be that.
No, it is nice. And it's funny of these teams that, I mean, there's so few teams that repeat or that win like multiple championships. And one of the things in Evan Grant's article that he talked about, or that Scott Boras talked about, that I really found funny, is Scott Boras was saying that this is what he was telling, very much speaking openly to the Rangers of, the way to, be a dynasty, to repeat as champs, is to spend money on players that I employ. So you put money in my checkbook. But he wasn't exactly directly saying that. He was like, oh, look at the premier organizations in all of Major League Baseball, the way to avoid being a one and done. And he talked about the Dodgers and the Astros specifically. But I found that ironic and kind of funny because the Dodgers have won championship since, 1986 or whatever it was. And the Astros have, one championship that I respect and count. So I find it hilarious that those are the teams that he's talking about. But you look at these other teams that have been, those are the smartest run team. Like the three smartest run teams in baseball, I think right now, are the Dodgers. The Astros are falling out of that, thankfully.
That's what I was going to say.
But yeah, for the last decade, it's impossible to look at them and say, yeah, nope, that's not one of the better run teams. And then the third team that I put in that mix is the Braves. And all three of those teams have one ring each in the last 10 years, which, like, I don't know what that says to you, but to me, it feels like it says, like, no matter how smart you're running your baseball team, no matter how many trades you win, no matter how great you are at developing players and signing smart free agents and just everything about how you construct a team, even ones like the Dodgers and Braves that feel like they're perennial juggernauts, they each have one ring. They have combined for 2 rings in the 2000s. And that to me is just bonkers with how good both those teams have been since like 2010 and even beyond that. Is that what it says to you?
Yeah, it just kind of affirms that the playoffs are so difficult to win. You can be the best team and your chances are not that high still. Get in, have a good pitching staff, have a good team, let the chips fall where they may. I know that is kind of a disliked attitude, and it's seen as kind of a disincentivization of going for more than 87 wins, but it kind of is the truth. Now, you still want to push in chips to go from a 10% chance of winning the playoffs once you make it to a 12% chance. That's kind of what the change is.
Yeah, maybe the Mariners GM was onto something there, even though it was frustrating to hear for a team that has never even been to a World Series of, no, we're trying for 87 wins and just to have a fun time and, get kind of close. But, I feel like, at least for me, all the things that I learned about like baseball, I think I learned the wrong lessons from this Rangers World Series run. Like, I think I learned every single wrong lesson. Like, oh, bullpens don't matter. Rotations don't matter. Just like have a bunch of guys who mash and maybe you'll get lucky. Just get Bruce Bochy and everything good will
Uh-huh.
happen. I think that's the main lesson that I learned. It's like, nope, none of it matters. Just get Bruce Bochy, go to a bunch of winner take all games because he's still never lost a single winner take all game. Never lost a game 7. Like, I don't understand. Like, I don't understand how insane that is. Like, I just can't comprehend this. Like, nope, Bruce Bochy, who's been a manager for 25 seasons, has never lost a winner take all game in the playoffs ever. And maybe that was the real thing the Rangers did. Just like get to the playoffs and Bruce Bochy will make something happen, and it doesn't matter what else is there. Is that the wrong lesson to learn, or is that just what it is?
No, I think that's fair. Make it to the playoffs, and Bochy can ride Leclerc and Spores and interesting newsworthy person the last couple of days.
We don't have to discuss that for your own benefit. Please don't look that up. Take my word for it. Oh my gosh, but he's not the Rangers' problem anymore. Now it's going to be a different combination. It's going to be Yates and Robertson and Leclerc and Spores. So there will be 4 guys. Hopefully none of which will walk like 16 batters per 9 innings. But even if they do, Bruce Bochy is just going to get them out of it. As long as you have like 2.5 healthy starters, as long as you got Nate Eovaldi at the top of your rotation and like one of the 3 other competent pitchers that you're hoping to have by some point mid-season. I mean, honestly, just a healthy Jacob deGrom and a healthy Nate Eovaldi, and then like if Scherzer's like still on the shelf and Mally's still on the shelf, I feel like those 2, like, and this lineup, you could definitely ride to another championship. Maybe just Nate Eovaldi and healthy Max Scherzer. I mean, it's nice to have those options coming back, and I would like them to be back sooner as opposed to later. Just be there for the full season and see 32 Jacob deGrom starts. But that is not the timeline we are living. But it doesn't matter because we are living in the timeline where the Texas Rangers are the reigning World Series champs. Is there any other notes from Surprise you want to wait? Oh my gosh, I almost forgot to do Random Rangers. We can do one real quick. I feel like I just got completely sidetracked. If you have a Random Ranger all ready to go,
I do.
Hit me with it.
This guy was honestly, he was a good curveball, not much else. Kind of made a name for himself in A-ball where nobody can hit a curveball, then kind of became a non-prospect in Double-A and above. Suddenly in 2019, when the team was no good, he got 4 starts, 22 innings. He walked 15, struck out 17, 5.73 ERA. Kind of was what people would expect. But it's a fun curveball, and he still pitches in the Dominican Winter League. Do you know who this right-handed pitcher is?
I have no idea.
This is one Pedro Payano.
Oh, Pedro Payano. What a blast from the past. For mine, I'm going to go with a Random Ranger who is more recent. I actually think you will get this pretty quickly because I just texted you about him because I was looking at his baseball reference page the other day and I was flummoxed by what he did in the majors with the Detroit Tigers last year as an everyday starting player. This is a guy who the Rangers signed out of Cuba, who I think we both saw a lot in Double-A Frisco. We're like, I don't understand what they see in this guy. He was a bat first guy with no power and a bad defender at second base, and then one magical spring training week with Adrian Beltre, and he became above average. He spent 2 seasons with the Rangers, 2021 and 22, where somehow in that, first season with the Rangers, 76 games, 1.8 B-WAR player. I still don't understand it. And last year, a 2-WAR season with the Detroit Tigers. Do you know who this man is?
This is, of course, Andy Ibanez.
Of course. The one, the only, the great Andy Ibanez, with a 744 OPS in the big leagues last year. And somehow in 3 years, a OPS north of 700, which is not what I expected, despite only having 19 home runs in 230 games. What a couple of random Rangers for us. Grant, thank you so much for talking ball and talking me off the ledge of not getting Dylan Cease. I think we will all survive that. But hey, thank you so much for joining. Thank you all so much for listening. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy World Series champion Texas Rangers baseball.